Morning, Matt. Welcome to my podcast, One for the Road. It's a joy to have you on, mate. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for bringing me on as well, mate. Yeah, it feels like the golden ticket. Do you know what I mean? Like with sobriety, because you're obviously someone that I've followed since I've gone sober. You and Dapper were the main two that I was listening to continuously, and I didn't really do the AA meetings and stuff like that. I just went cold turkey. So podcasts were like the inspiration for me, sort of going forward with this and learning a lot about it and people's stories. And yeah, it was a sort of more, I found your podcast relatable because it was just like normal everyday people. And obviously Dapper was like a bit of a lad himself. So it was,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
seeing
it's
him
just,
tomorrow, actually, doing a
yeah,
thing
so am
with
I.
him. Oh, are you there tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm there tomorrow, mate. So I'll be limbering up. Do you know what I mean? Getting
Uh,
ready. Probably be blowing up my ass after 5 minutes, but it's all for charity.
Yeah, it is, mate. And by the time this is aired, it would have been over and done with. So we can
Exactly.
talk about it after. That's good. I'll get to meet you, mate. But yeah, I've read your bio and that. It's an interesting story. And part of the reason I got you on is because you're a young lad. You might not think so, but to me, you are. And it's interesting to hear from different age groups. So
Mhm.
it'd be good. You're 34. You're a male model agent. Been doing that around 12 years.
Mhm.
But I'd like to wind it back before that and talk about what it's like for you growing up and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my childhood was quite a normal childhood, to be honest, mate. I had a mum that cotton wooled us and still does to this day. She was always there, sort of like looking after us. My
Good
dad,
girl.
I know, dear bless her. But yeah, my old man, he was a sound bloke. They weren't like drinkers, but I think me and my dad were very similar in the sort of the aspect of how we drink. Like my dad could sit there and drink 4 beers in an hour. Do you know what I mean? And think nothing of it. Like this, the speed in which we drink, and I think that is very much sort of my criteria when it comes to drinking. It was never for the taste. It was more just to the whole sort of the end goal was to get drunk and get fucked.
Yeah.
It was never like, oh, it's a nice glass of wine. I'm enjoying that. But anyway, so yeah, my childhood was great, mate. It was I didn't really start drinking till I was about 17, but I think more so I was quite a big lad throughout my teenage years. Some call it puppy fat. You know, at that point, I didn't see it as puppy fat. I was just this large kid who, lucky enough, got into playing rugby and enjoyed playing sports. And I think that also really helped with my development at school because I was going from like one group to another group to another group. I could be with the chavs or I could go and hang out with the grungers or do you know what I mean? It's sort of, I was a bit of a social butterfly.
Yeah.
But I think drink came into it sort of around 17 when I was in sixth form. And we used to go to like these clubs where you could get in if you was under 18. I think it was like an old, like they call it the genre indie. And it was, you'd go there and the bounce would just ask you, like, what's your three favorite indie bands? And you just have to reel them off and then
Oh,
you was
really?
in. So yeah, it was cushy. So drinking started sort of around 17. And that was mainly just sort of like Friday nights. It wasn't like a continual thing, but it was a new buzz. It was just like lease of life. And, when I started losing my weight and it was just like, I've got this and I've got this confidence. And I was going in the clubs and talking to girls and like it was a drug basically, but it was like a real high that I really
Mm,
enjoyed.
mm.
And then obviously sort of started from doing that. And then I went into university. I went to a local uni because I'm from Kent. There's a university called the University of the Creative Arts. So I went there and did fashion promotion and did that for 3 years. Really sort of enjoyed it. Didn't really want to work in fashion afterwards. Didn't really like the idea. And it just felt not very me, if that makes sense.
Mm.
But then sort of coming out of university, it was one of the sort of situations where it's just like you've got to use what you got. So I've got a degree in this criteria of sort of like fashion and I'll need to put it to use. So I then saw a job going as a junior booker in a model agency, went for it, and then sort of 12 years later, still doing it, mate. So
Oh, it's a great job, mate. Um,
yeah,
what was it like at uni? Because a lot of people talk about the drinking in the
yeah.
uni.
Uni was like fine. I sort of cut a long story short. I trial and errored a couple of different universities. So I went and lived in Portsmouth, and I was literally there for 2 weeks. And then my girlfriend at the time come and saw me, and it was like, oh, I can't be without you. I need to come back. And so I left Portsmouth, went to Canterbury, tried that uni, didn't work. And then I ended up just going to a local university. So I was still living at home. So that idea of like being out and about was a bit different for me because you know what I mean? I didn't really have that whole like social aspect because I wasn't living with random people. But yeah, going out, mate, there was always student nights. I think my drinking really did take off during that. And there was a bar at the uni, as there is most. And the times when I would just go off on my own when I was meant to be going to lessons and I would just go and sit and like smash a load of pints. Do you know what I mean? Like middle of the day. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like because you could, because it was like, you know, it just felt like you was like this adult and you can make your own choices and stuff. But yeah, turn up to lessons like fucked. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just like not going to lessons and not going to, you know, sort of seeing your tutors and stuff like that because you just hang out your ass or do you know what I mean? It just alcohol was always top of the agenda. Education was like down there, and it was just like, you know, I want to have fun. Fuck the system. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like I don't want to be doing that. But yeah, it was just like that was my go-to, and that was the fun part of the uni was like the student nights and doing this, that, and the other. It wasn't actually coming out with a good degree. You know, fortunately enough, I came out with a shit degree, but I got a good job. So you know, I'm not a very good banner to be flying for the universities. But yeah, it was very much like that, and I think that's when I kind of didn't dabble because obviously the cost of drugs and stuff. But I remember it. I think it was like my 21st, 22nd birthday, and someone bought like a bag of gear with them, and we went to like one of the local clubs. And mate, I can't describe that feeling of doing it for the first time. It was just like you just felt like I just felt on top of the world, and all I did was like one line. And it was, and that did me for the whole night. But it was just that, and then it was like, oh, what's this fucking drug? Like, I want a bit more of that, a bit more of that. Do you know what I mean? It was like the tipping point for me, mate. So yeah, that's where Coke then became quite an ally of alcohol. They became best friends.
You know, the weird thing is, and I don't know why, maybe it's the people that I mix with, I don't know, but I never ever got into that. Like, and I know people that did. I remember being in the All Bar One in Sutton, right? And these people kept going to the toilet and coming back and like rubbing their noses and like licking their gums and whatever. And it's like, oh, hello. But it didn't really, I don't know what it was. Maybe I'm just old school, or maybe I was afraid of it because I knew where booze took me. I learned over the years to think, do you know what? I can drink this amount. And it was quite stable with how I felt. But once I was in this situation that I took half a ecstasy tablet, right? And I thought, and it was around people's houses and that. And I sat there and I thought, it's not doing anything. And that. So I took another one and I don't remember a lot more. But I remember this girl in a corner was like dancing around. Oh, this waterfall is amazing. It's beautiful. And then she literally flipped out and was saying, oh my God, there's frogs all over me. And she completely tripped, right? And after that, I don't remember anything. But when I woke up in the same chair in the morning, there were about 10 cans of lager around me that I just opened, but I'd left and then opened another one, opened another one. But after that, I was so badly depressed for about 2 weeks, like literally the most depressed I've been ever. And I just said, I'm never, ever touching drugs ever again. So I kind of stayed to the booze, do you know what I mean? But I know it's a big thing in...
It was, I think, I don't know, like because of the speed that I used to drink, mate. It's like as if I like validated like taking the gear. It was just like I used to drink to a certain point, and it was like, cool. I've had 6 beers now. Like I think it's all right if I go and pick a bag up. Like I feel like sort of that's the allowed thing to do. But it was such a dumb way of looking at things because I didn't like feeling drunk. I didn't like feeling like disorderly and like out of it. Sorry. And the gear kind of just like leveled me up. I think that's the main reason why I used to take it, was because I used to want to sort of still be with it and still be able to have a conversation with people and not come across like sort of stumbling around. And do you know what I mean? I just found that, and booze, I think booze made me more like aggressive. And it was just like I think the gear sort of like leveled me out, and I could still have like a full on conversation with someone. But it's not so much like it wasn't so much the taking, it was the effect. I think it's the aftermath, mate. I think that's the biggest fuck up, and that's where the demons would come and you'd be like sort of sitting there on your own, because I went through a period as well. Sorry, I'm cutting back and forth with my stories, but I used to enjoy taking drugs home with me. Like that's where it got. Like I would happily, like I was at a party, and it would be sort of like having a couple of conversations with people, and someone would be like, "Oh, you got any gear on you?" And I'd be like, "No, no, 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 no. It's, you know, it's all gone, mate. I'm really sorry." Knowing full well I had like 2 bags on me. But that feeling that I used to get, being like, "Oh, I'm going to go home in a minute and I'm going to sit there, I'm going to put some music on and might write a bit of poetry." It just ended up with me watching like 5 hours worth of Pornhub for that. Just like sit there. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, it was such a weird thing, but I was that addiction, and that was like my safety bubble. Like I loved it. I loved coming home and, like, you know, racking up a line, get a beer, sit there, and that was my excitement. Was not so much even socializing people. I became a bit more of a hermit the more I started taking it. It was like more, I didn't want to be seen out with people. I felt like it was more comfortable for me to be in my own surroundings and not have anyone judge me. And, you know, if I want to go and rack a big slug up, I'm going to do it. If I want to do it, like, do you know what I mean? It was just such a weird, like, idea. And I remember when I used to sort of stay, when I was living with my parents for a bit, and, you know, you're just doing lines downstairs while they're upstairs in bed, and just that sort of, that notion that when my dad used to get up for work and see me sprawled out on the sofa with like a can of lager next to me and like an empty packet, but like crumbs of cocaine, all it's like so fucking disrespectful. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even my place, but that's the selfish nature that I would get into. Like, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. Like, even like with relationships, friendships, it was tunnel vision. I, you know, be out with friends, but my tunnel vision was, I've got to make sure that I pick this gear up, and I'm going to walk the ends of the earth. If he tells me it's a 30-minute walk, I'm going to fucking get a proper step on and get there. Do you know what I mean? It didn't bother me. You know, imagine if someone saying, "Oh, can you come and meet me for 30 minutes for a loaf of bread?" You'd be like, "No, mate, no, you're good. You can bring it to me." Do you know what I mean? But it's just like, that's the mad thing, that it had such a hold, and does, for a lot of people, that you'll go miles to get that stuff, jump in random people's cars. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like waiting for a girlfriend to text you back. As soon as you put that order in, and that wait, and they're like, "Yeah, give it an hour," and it's checking your phone, and you can't even have conversations with people because you're visualizing your phone all the time. And you're, you know, there was times when I used to go into bars, and if my phone was running on low, I used to make sure that I used to be like, "Oh, can you put my phone on charge? Because my sister's about to have a baby and I need to make
Oh
sure that my
God.
phone." Do you know what I mean? Like making stories up. So
It's
they
our
would,
behaviour, isn't it? It's the behaviour
yeah.
of an addict, isn't it? And like,
Mm,
I don't relate to the drug side, but like the going home in that I did, because when you say the comfort blanket, I used to visualize this big velvet like pod that I would
mm,
step into. Um, and I would the more I drank, the more the door would close. And then
yeah.
it'd just go zoom, like that. And that's when I was really drunk. And it
Mm,
was like sanctuary, like little soft lights in there, amazing music, and I was like tripping on that. But that the aftermath of that was just horrendous for me. You know, like
mm.
what were your come downs the next day? Like, because you'd only just started this job, really, didn't you? Like, I worked it out earlier that you was probably there a year or so when you started like getting
Yeah.
stuck into this. So was that part of it, like the buzz of the job, or
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, I like being uptown anyway, sort of working in Kent, coming from sort of, you know, the nice little town, and then going into the big city and meeting all these like eccentric characters and being surrounded by, like, you know, there was fucking brands that I would only dream of working with, and you're working with them, and you've got all these beautiful people walking around, and it's all like superficial. Do you know what I mean? Because the more time I've been there, I always say to people, it's like working in a chocolate factory. Do you know what I mean? Like people are like, "Well, you're surrounded by beautiful women all the time." But I was like, "Yeah, but you work in a chocolate factory, you get bored of the taste of chocolate." Do you know what I mean? And that's how my job is. I'm just so used to it now. But yeah, it was a mad transition for me. And obviously at the start, you want to be seen at the parties. You know, you've got these free events, you've got free alcohol, and it was continual. Like when I when I was working up there, I would deliberately like make a plan for the week. Like, you know, me and my mate would make sure that we'd go to all these parties because it was like free food, free drink. That's your dinner sorted. That's your drinks done. Do you know what I mean? And it's cost you fuck all. So it was fun. I really did enjoy it, but yeah, also at the same time, very damaging. I remember when I was working up there and living up there, when I was living in Walthamstow for a couple of years, and it was like 3 times a week, mate. And like you're burning the candle at each end. And like, I remember the email I sent you, like we used to do this like Monday club, and like deliberately get fucked on a Monday. Like that was the thing. Like we just all get to the pub after work, and it was just like cool. So we're just gonna get some packet in, get fucked. Like it's just start of your week. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing it at the start of the week, what's the rest of the week gonna be like? Do you know what I mean? It was just like such a weird mindset to have, and with the job as well. I think the whole reason why I started my podcast was because I think it's really important for people in the arts to sort of be able to talk about these things, because it's an industry from an outsider looking in that can sort of be deemed as quite a dark industry. Like if you don't know a lot about it and you see what you see on the TV or the media and stuff like that, it can be like that. And it was very sort of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And at the first sort of few years of doing it, I really felt that. I felt like it was like keeping up, whether that was traveling for work when I used to go to like Milan and Paris for show seasons and stuff. But it was like, I treat it like it was a holiday. Like I was like trying to get numbers of Parisian drug dealers or Milanese drug dealers, and going out for dinner for people, and then waiting like to go for a walk for like 2 hours and trying to pick up gear from a random, like you don't know anyone. Do you know what I mean? It was so dumb, but missing flights. Like I did that so many times, mate. Like, I remember when I was meant to be going to Amsterdam, and there's a club in London called The Box. And I was in there till 4 a.m, just like no fucks given. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just like, I don't know, it became such a norm for me to get like really like messed up before flights. Do you know what I mean? Staying up all night. Like there's times and times when I've just been like, I'll just get on the bag tonight. Me and my housemate just sitting there doing bumps of gear with each other, sort of like until my cab comes and picks me up. And sitting in Stansted Airport trying to devour a Whopper in your hand, and people just staring at you, and you just look like a fucking golem. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, it was. I was even thinking about it now, like baffling how that was like. I'm quite an intelligent bloke, but stuff I was doing, like, well, where's the intelligence in that? Like,
I'm
it
just
was just,
wondering if there's like a rebellion to something, because you said when you was at uni and you missed class, sit on your own.
yeah.
I mean, that's not like at your age then normal drinking of like, come on, let's all get on it lunchtime and forget the lessons. It's like there's something there, isn't there, that is the rebellion about the
Yeah.
commitment, real life's responsibilities, isn't there? And that's what stands out to me.
I think I've always had this like punk rebellious streak, sort of with authority, and not that I'm a bad man, do you know what I mean? But I'm very much sort of like, I don't like being told what to do, and it's kind of in my own time. Um, but I also think it's a level of like loneliness, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like I think even now with the sobriety and stuff, I still get this elements of loneliness, and it's something that I'm working on. And I think even speaking to a mate the other day, like with the whole drugs and alcohol, it really feels that we kind of had a cheat code. It's like when you get a game and you type in a code, and then you sort of jump, like, I don't know, certain forward in the game, and you skip certain
Yeah.
things. I kind of feel like when I started drinking and taking drugs, for my confidence and self-love, it's like my body didn't train itself to do that. It's like as if we've skipped. So we went straight into drugs and alcohol, and that was the cheat code, right? If you take this, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel sexy. You're going to feel like confident. You can talk to a lot of people. And that's how why I did it, I think, most of the time, because it was a low self-esteem, mate. Like, and I've had that for so long and still do now. And, working in the environment I work in, especially at a young age, like when I was in my 20s, like it does knock you. Do you know what I mean? Because you have got these like amazing looking people walking around you doing these amazing things, earning a lot more money than you are, even younger than who and what you are. And so I really feel that really battered my self-esteem and my confidence. And I think that's why it kind of got worse as time went on. Because yeah, it's hard. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to be in that environment, surrounded by that. But I think that's why I'm sort of struggling still now, even a year on in sobriety, because I am having to learn again, because I missed the time before, about to love myself, about my self-esteem, about my confidence, and it's getting that muscle memory back, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing at the moment.
It's retraining. Like, what sticks out to me as well, you said when you were a kid, you had puppy fat, and we label it, but at school, you were probably called fatty, and like, you know, and like what you said, your mum mollycoddled you in a lovely way, and your dad was a good bloke and that. But if you carry a bit of weight at school and you're up for bullying, that is enough to completely destroy your self-worth. And I say that because I was as well. I was always the podgy kid, you know, and I was called Fatty Arbuckle, and, you know, had some more cakes today, Dave, and all this stuff. And it just chips and chips and chips and chips away at you, right? And then probably when you go into the industry where it's full of glamorous people and size 4 models and stunning blokes and that, you can't help compare, can you?
No, of course not.
And I suppose being part of the gang is like when we drink when we're younger to fit in. And you said as well before that you would be the social butterfly. You would flip from one group to the other and shapeshift, people please, and go, please like me because I can drink this and I'm all right and I can have a bit of bag and that. And then when you stop drinking and taking drugs, you're like standing there naked in the middle of the high street, aren't you? And it's like, oh my God, like, I don't know who I am. And I've got to start again, but I'm already in this environment I've been in for the last 12 years. How am I going to cover that? Do you know what I mean? Like, go in one day and you've stopped all that. And it's, you know.
Yeah, I think even with the job, mate, like, it's you've got to be a bit of a social chameleon, because you've got to, you know, I've got individuals from different walks of life, whether it's upper class, lower class, different cultures, they're from different countries, different nationalities. So you continuously having to reshape who you are continuously to sort of meet the requirements and, you know, put people at ease a lot of the time, you know, which is, it's understandable. Like, you need to be able to be that way and to do this job. Do you know what I mean? Because I always tell people that my job, as glamorous as it sounds, but I'm just a glorified salesman. Do you know what I mean? I've got a product that I have to sell. So yeah, I do feel that then in Tao it has affected me a lot, because it's like, who the fuck am I? You know, who is Matt? And that's why I feel that the fat Matt is still me, because we've had like this section of life where we've jumped. And we've not really sorted it. We've not really looked out,
because you've numbed it out for all that time. And I understand that, because I talk about the inner child, right? Like, when I stopped drinking, which was 40 years, I almost went back to the 14-year-old standing there just about to take my first can. And it was like, oh my God, like, I was so fragile back then. You know, I wasn't a fighter, Matt. Like, all the lads, I was at a really like rough school, and part of their crack was going to the school around the corner at lunchtime and picking a fight outside the school gates. And I hated it. I hated violence. I would get like convulsions at the thought of, God, I've got to like show that I can have a fight in front of all these yobbos and that. And it just made my life a nightmare. So when we went up the shops and they said, have a beer, Dave, and I had it, and all of a sudden it gave me wings, and it's like, and then I started making them laugh, and it's like, I don't have to fight anymore, because this is my role in the group. You know, this is who my identity is. I'm Dave, the funny one, and the drinker, not the fat kid from school. And I fitted in. But when I stopped drinking, all of a sudden, I went back to being the 14-year-old that was really sensitive, in fact, hypersensitive, unconfident. Sure, I had loads of issues going on with low self-esteem and that. And this is like, it's not just about stopping drinking, it's about what it leaves you with. But it gives you a platform to rebuild, and you've got all those years of life experience that you can grab off to help you along the way, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a mad one, mate. It's a really mad one, because even you talking about sort of like your senses and stuff, I do honestly feel, since going sober, like, you become so much more aware of stuff, and you feel a lot more. And, you know, even like with my breakup last year, it was like, I don't think I've ever felt heartbreak before, because I would just numb it out, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
exactly. And that was, it's such a weird feeling to have, and the pain, and do you know what I mean? Even like meeting new people, you really pick up a vibe straight away. Like, you kind of know, do you know what I mean? Like, because I suppose, again, you're not masking it up. Like, even if you're on a date, like, it's just like you're actually talking to this person, you're being yourself. Do you know what I mean? And like, you're picking up on a lot of things with people. It's crazy.
I
It
want to
honestly
talk
is.
to you about a bit though leading up to it. So like you're in your 20s and that, and then you're going through all of that, and
Mm,
then hit 30. My son's 30, he's just come back from Thailand. No,
nice.
we're 3 weeks out there with the lads and whatever, but he's on quite a health kick. Didn't drink for a long time. I doubt whether he didn't drink in Thailand, but we ain't had that conversation. In fact, he don't know. I saw a little reel there where he picks up a beer. Of course, it was AF, but who am I to judge,
Nice.
mate? Like he's trying
Exactly.
to sort it out, And he had 6 months off, and he's back down the gym now at R56. He's probably back in the health kick. But
Mm.
you know, and then early 30s. Where did you get to with your drinking just before you decided enough was enough?
Where I got my drinking, so I would say it was still like very, I don't know, like, even being in this job where I am at the moment, I've been there like 2.5 years, in this new agency. But it was a case of like, the drinking at lunchtime, mate, like, it was still bad, and it felt like it was getting worse. Like, I would speak to the boys I work with and be like, oh, should we go for a beer at lunch? Mine was never a beer. Like, anyone that says they're going for a beer, I was like, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to go for a drink. If we're going to go for a drink, we'll go
Ironic.
for a drink. Exactly. So, yeah, lunch times, I'd go and sink like 4 beers, go back into the office, like, smashed. Do you know what I mean? And then it would be like, I was clucking so much to like get another beer. And it was sort of like, or I'll give it a couple of hours because that then feels normal. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of closer to 4 o'clock, because that's more normal for people. They won't look at me funny, and
Yeah.
going to the office up the top of the road and like getting a bag of beers in, and sort of going through the other door into the office and no one saw me do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like this hiding and like being secretive and stuff like that. That was still a big thing, and I came close to sort of getting written warnings and stuff, because I was going to client. I went with a client lunch once and didn't come back to the office till nearly closing time, and I was smashed. Like, then I was in the office and I was going, talking about gear and stuff like that, and do you know what I mean? Like, and it was so fucking stupid, mate. And you think like in your 30s you've kind of learnt your lesson of not doing that, but it really didn't. It got worse, and then I was like knocking about like with I have people that I was seeing, but they were also into like the party atmosphere, and that again was like a little thing that you're with someone that's an enabler and you're an enabler, and it was just like that again was pretty fucked. But yeah, it got to a point where I was with my ex, and I think like the first few months of us being together, like I was still drinking, but it would be like she would have like a glass of wine, and then I would finish the bottle off. And it was like, oh, should we get another one in? And it's just like, you're just sitting indoors, and it's like a Wednesday evening, and I'm just like sort of nailing a bottle of wine. Do you know what I mean? And I felt bad for her, because I feel that she was then trying to drink to keep up with my drinking. And even now, like, I could see that. And it was a shit show, mate. And, there was shit that I did which wasn't right, in terms of like, even the early doors of meeting her. She used to wear this ring, and it was from an ex. And she said that she had complications. So I'm not going to go into details of that ex, but I didn't understand why she was wearing the ring. If it was something that was like that, and me thinking I was being romantic, I was like, "Oh, can I have a look at your ring?" And then I got it, and then I just chucked it, and I was like, "You don't need it no more." But like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? That's not your duty to be doing that, and like, and just shit like that. So yeah, it caused issues, and like the only time that we would argue and stuff like that would be when I'd had a drink, and it just became a bit of an issue. And we had a massive argument on my birthday. So my birthday's on the 3rd of January. So we had a bit of a bust up on my birthday. It was just one of these things where we was out, and she just said to me, "Oh, like, make sure we don't get into an argument tonight," because we was going for dinner with my parents, and that got my back up. So I was like, well, it's going fine. Like, why would you say that? Like, we're having a perfect day and it's been a lovely night and blah, blah, blah. anyway, escalated, and then I ended up going to my parents, and then, you know what I mean, sort of came back with my towel between my legs the next day, and she'd written a list of like 6 different occasions where I'd messed up and where I'd fucked up, and that really hit home, mate. And that really was just like, look, I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm gonna stop altogether from today. It's done. Like, I don't need to be doing it. I don't want to hurt you anymore. I don't want to ruin this relationship. I love you. I don't. You know what I mean? It was. I didn't want to lose her, mate. It scared me. Someone that I really cared about, and we just got engaged, and I just had to pull my socks up and sort my shit out, mate. Do you know what I mean? Because it'd been like a reoccurring issue that had been going on. And yeah, I just went cold turkey, just completely stopped, because I now label alcohol and drugs as, I put these negative equations to it, because everything bad that's happened in my life has been due to substances. Without the substances, I'd be free and breezy, mate. I'd have no problems. I'd be no anxiety, no worrying about if I've said something shitty to someone. Do you know what I mean? It's just formed so much shit with that, and I just had to eradicate it. Yeah, and to save the relationship. Unfortunately, it ended anyway, but it was still like, I just wanted to, do you know what I mean? I wanted to show her, but also show myself that I could do that. You know, it's all right doing stuff for people, but you've really got to do it for yourself, because if you're doing it for everyone else, you'll get to a certain point and be like, well, actually, I don't mind doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why I'm trying to sort of, you know, cater to other people.
I think what have happened there, if you say that it's over anyway, if you did it for her and it was over, you would have probably got back on it then. Because I thought, I can't even do that right, so I might as well start drinking again. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's important. And I'm sorry to hear about that, mate, because it was that soon after, or was...
It was kind of, no. So I went sober in Jan, and we broke up sort of September. But it's one of those things, mate. Like, I wish her all the luck, and you know, she was the catalyst behind me stopping drinking. So at the end of the day, I've got to take me out of to her, and it's one of those things, you know, when people aren't on similar pages with stuff, and it just wasn't working, and it just was not feeling right, and it got a bit, you know, a bit toxic here and there, and I wasn't perfect. I've never been perfect, and I never will be perfect, but yeah, it was sad as well, like, you know, not to get deep, but I felt so present. And I felt like it was the first time in a relationship where I was so present, so there, just wanted to just try and help and help and help. And, you know, in comparison to past relationships where I would just self-sabotage, Dave, do you know what I mean? Like, it was like, I didn't care. I didn't want to be with that person. So I'm just going to push it to the limit. I'm going to get fucked. I'm going to go out. I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Really hurt people. And that's the biggest thing that I'm feeling, is like a lot of shame. But, you know, hopefully, you know, even one of my exes started liking my stuff on my Instagram, and I was such an arsehole to her, mate. Do you know what I mean? And because it was during lockdown, and drugs and alcohol got really bad for me over lockdown. It was because I needed that escapism, you know, being locked up. And those speeches that used to go on with telling us like, oh, this is going to be locked and we're going to open this up on this day. Just like I remember getting upset because the pubs were closed. It really affected me, and the fact that, like, I just felt like my social life had disappeared, and it was fucked. But yeah, just being in that environment, I like lost my job, I got made redundant. Like, it was just a lot of things, mate. And it was so easy just to sort of just get on it and just drink. Do you know what I mean? You could start drinking at midday and there was nothing wrong with it. Do you know what I mean? Because you felt like everyone else was doing it as well.
Well, it was almost like a holiday mode, wasn't it? Because like, I've talked about it before. There was that house party out, and everyone used to just share like sun lounger videos of drinking wine at midday and say, why not? Might as well, nothing else to do, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But I think gradually the old mental health started, because I was running a big carpet company then, and like literally my income stopped dead. All the wholesalers shut down. People didn't want you in their houses, any of that. And I was just thinking, what am I going to do? But luckily I was sober then. I gave up a year before. And quite often I think, I wonder how I would have managed that, because it would be getting in my stash that I used to bring in to drink and hide, like there was no reason for me to go out. And you would go to the supermarket and there was do you remember the queues that would be about a mile long?
One
And
in,
you
one
just
out, and
used
all
to
that
stand
business.
there for hours, didn't you? And then I'll be in there putting 6 liters of vodka and a cabbage on the thing. So
Jesus.
luckily I didn't have to go through that, you know, and actually I was really, really grateful for that, because I think my mental health was bad enough in lockdown. You know, I remember being on the phone to the bank thinking, I need to sort this out. And I was in a queue for 7 hours
Fucking
where
hell.
everyone else was on the phone. And I didn't really get anywhere with it at the end of it as well. And it's like, oh my God, like this is going to absolutely annihilate me, this, because I had a lot of outgoings, you know, and all of a sudden the income stopped and no one really knew where it was going, did they? And I
No.
know a lot of people for me, even now, they come to me and they say, do you know what? It started in lockdown. And I've mentioned before about people like blowing into a cup, pretending it's tea and it's actually got alcohol in it, where they need it, you know, like lunchtime boozing and whatever. But so when you gave up, how was the first 3 months for you? Like, because you was on it a bit, weren't you? Like this Monday club and then the Coke and everything. How was the first 3 months?
First 3 months were tough, really, mate. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what to expect. In my head, sometimes I'd question whether I'd made the right choice. It was very weird, and it felt like I was isolated. Like I was scared. I didn't want to go out. I was scared about what was going to trigger me. I was scared of hanging around with certain people and going to certain places. And it was tough, but I think it kind of made it a bit easier because my partner at the time, she wasn't a heavy drinker. So, you know, I sort of encouraged her to still carry on as normal. So like if she wanted a glass of rosé of an evening, I'd be like, just do it. Like it's good for me. And I kind of feel that I wanted to throw myself into the deep end quite quickly. Be that we went to New York in February, and you know I didn't drink during that. You know, there was like weddings, stag do's, stuff like that. Like I wanted to experience it because I love socializing. I love seeing people, and I didn't want to become this like recluse. But it honestly felt it was just fucking lonely, mate, and it was boring. I was bored. I was just like, you know, even sort of after work drinks or just socializing with people doing that. And your brain has to go into like a different outlook. You have to start sort of figuring out what other shit you can do that can sort of bide your time and like, you know, give you that fix or sort of like make you happy. And just even whether it was like fitness, whether it was going for a walk, but yeah, I just felt fucking boring, Dave. And it was like this. I had so many emotions going on, and I had stuff that I've not experienced before because obviously I've just pushed it all to the back of my head. But I started going to counselling, but that was tough because it was basically through work and it was a free counselling sessions and stuff. But each time I was going back to it, I had a different counsellor, so it was having to retell your fucking story, and I kind of wanted to do it more so not to help with the sobriety. Really, I wanted to get to the point as like why I was a heavy drinker and why I drink to the speed in which I was drinking, and I didn't really get anywhere with that. But yeah, it was just weird, very weird for me, and but so proud of myself that I was doing it. Like, you know, I've got the I Am Sober app, and it would send me like updates of like how many days, months, blah blah blah, and it was great posting that and just getting some love, mate. I think that's all I really wanted was to feel encapsulated with like love and like people proud of me, and it was very sort of external validation. I talk about this a lot, but I've suffered with that a lot when I was doing gear, and like now I'm off the gear, and I'm still trying to find that validation from other people that I'm doing a good job, that I should be respected, that, you know, even with the projects that I'm doing with the podcast and stuff, it's like it needs to stop at some point, and I need to sit back and feel very proud of myself and where I've come and what I've achieved. And I think that's the biggest difficulty, is feeling, you know, feeling content in something and feeling that you're on a right journey and that you're getting somewhere and you don't care what anyone else is saying and you're doing this for you. This is the first time that I'm doing shit for me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's crazy, but yeah, it's been a journey, mate, and it's only been a year, but it was hard. Like I say to people, it's not just you don't just wave your wand and you become sober and everything's cushy and like life's great and everyone loves you and you love yourself. There's finding a lot of shit about yourself. There's a lot of dark, deep bits that you get involved with, and you really have to pull yourself out of there because it's just you that can do that, and it's a mental battle.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I totally agree with that. But where are you on your level of self-esteem now? Because you talk about external validation and everyone saying they're proud of you. What level of 1 to 10 are you proud of you?
5.
That's all right.
Yeah, so it's getting there. It's midway, but I'm just. Do you know what? I feel that I need to be doing something else. I feel that a lot of my life now, Dave, is a lot of resemblance of my old life. Like with the job, with the traveling up to London, with the going to certain places. That I feel that it still resembles that old Matt. Like even the flat that I live in. When I wasn't living there, when I was with my missus or my ex, my sister was living there, and then after everything happened, and I moved back in here. It's been very weird for me because I can remember sitting in this room here, dabbing cocaine off the floor because I'd run out and trying to get crumbs of it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of memories here, and I just feel like feels like everything needs to be a bit of a fresh start. I feel like whether that's career wise, whether that's doing so. Do you know what I mean? I'm in that kind of mindset at the moment, and I think that's
the beginning, mate. Because like when I look at mine, 5 years, right? Every single year was different for me. I used to say to people, year 2 is different from year 1, year 3, year 4, year 5. And now I'm in a much different place now that I'm starting to ask different questions than I was last year. And it's all, I call it an adventure, an experience. Do you know what I mean? And it's like for you, you're a young bloke, you're on a 5 with your self-esteem. And I think you're doing brilliantly, mate. I really
Thank
do.
you.
And you're a role model for the younger people as well to actually stand up and go, do you know what? I ain't doing it anymore. And to stick by it now. And you've got a podcast out. We can talk about that a bit later. But, you're mixing in with people from this kind of alignment of the sober community in that. And in a way, you've done it on your own as well. Which isn't always the best way because you can feel really lonely. But look, you've stuck with it because I no doubt you probably got a lot of stick from certain mates in that. Was there much resistance for you giving up?
No. I mean, there might be like the odd one that sort of made comments and stuff, but like fuck them. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I looked at it because
But they probably knew that as well. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if you was a bit of a pushover, they might have put the thumb screws on, but they probably knew the reaction and the energy you gave off was probably, look, this is what I'm doing. I don't care what you think, and this is where I'm going. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's like holding a mirror up to some people. Do you know what I mean? I think people don't
100%.
like to be reminded, and they see that someone's doing. Everyone loves a failure. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't like seeing people sort of coming out and like becoming like positive and have positive energy and like doing well and stuff. But honestly, mate, everyone's been so supportive with it all, and even with my friends, like they just do lovely things. Like if we go around for dinner, or they're like, "Do you mind if I have a drink? Do you mind if?" No, I don't. I love that. At the same time, I hate it because I don't want it to be a thing. Like Matt's here, so we need to be careful about what we're doing, or what. Do you know what I mean? I want everyone to be like relaxed and just carry on with your fucking lives. Like if you ain't got a problem with it, I love seeing people out and about drinking or having a buzz and just enjoying themselves. Like that gets me happy. Do you know what I mean? Like I love it. I love seeing people that can hold their drink and haven't got a problem and can go enjoy it. Like I envy them. Do you know what I mean? Like it's lovely to see. And if you ain't got a problem, then don't worry about it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like, but I knew that I had one. Like I was questioning if I had one, which usually means that you've got one. Do you know what I mean? But it's been fantastic, honestly. Like even like just doing, like you said, like the podcast it's like therapy. It's lovely talking to people, and it's so nice. The whole purpose of doing it was to help people. That's all I want to do is just like help people or like help inspire people. But I always say to people that come and like sort of message me and they're like, I've got a mate who's got a drink problem. Like, can he reach out and talk to you? And I sort of say to them, like, I'm not a trained professional. and my journey might not work for them. So just make sure that you give them a heads up about that. But I'm happy to listen. Do you know what I mean? And I'm happy to help where I can. But I'm not this like sobriety guru. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough. I'm still early on in my journey. And yeah, what works for me might not work for you. That's what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, and you have to protect yourself as well, because some
yeah,
people can dump a load of stuff on you and you don't know how to manage it. So it
yeah,
works both ways, and sometimes you have to pick and choose what's right for you, you
of
know.
course,
So
of
what's your
course.
podcast called, mate?
It's called High Sobriety. So basically, there's a sort of clothing streetwear brand called High Sobriety. So I was trying to like mix the two, and because obviously I work in fashion, the whole ethos of it is sort of speaking to individuals that work within the arts, be that fashion, film, music, because I feel that they are industries that people know about, and from an outsider, it's sort of like I said earlier, it's very party, but sort of inside it, I don't think people really know people's stories enough. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's been going for about 2 months now. I've had a couple of guests on so far. One was a model that I used to look after, and one's a musician who I used to also look after. But I've got people like I had a girl come on this week called Kate Moss. She's like a fitness instructor, not the Kate Moss. I wish.
I was going to say you played that down a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know. No fucking about here, mate. But yeah, she's not sober, but her dad was an alcoholic, so I thought that was quite an interesting twist to
Yeah.
speak to someone that sort of deals with that. But it's been great, mate. It's been, fortunately, I work in a place where there's a studio, so it's been very easy for me to do the filming and stuff like that. But it's just like a new lease of life, honestly.
Yeah.
It's been so good for me internally and mentally, and just speaking to people. Like, you learn about other things, and there is other people out there struggling or been through it, and
Yeah.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's such a nice thing, and just to give back, like, people that watch it, and lovely stuff that people say, like, if people listen and they say like it really helped them out. I've had people say that they've gone to their first CA meetings because they've listened to it, and
Yeah.
it's been fantastic, mate. And I just want it to grow, and maybe that's kind of an avenue that I would like to go in more, like become like a guest speaker, talk to people. Like, I think there's something in me that just wants to get out and about and help people and just talk. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's been really good for me, really good.
Well, I think you're a natural, mate, to be honest.
Thank
And
you.
I think you're at a really good age to be able to do that and inspire younger people because, off the back of Dapper's podcast, I've got quite a few young uns coming through and I can talk to them about my experience and my knowledge as a coach and whatever. But sometimes it needs someone of a similar age for them to like identify to and relate to as well. So
Of
there's
course.
space for everyone here. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'd be brilliant. And I work with Music Support as well, which is a charity that helps musicians with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a new friends and family support line there, free chat line, and quite often a musician will come on to my podcast and talk about their story as well. And it's most people come to me and say, I'm in an industry where alcoholism is rife and blah blah blah. And I
Mm.
say, that's what everyone says because it's rife everywhere.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wherever you look, it's rife, and
Mm.
it's got to change because I think people now are seeing through it, and especially younger generations coming through. We can be the example to them, like you're being, that actually you don't have to live a life like that anymore. You can change, and you can be the example that they need for them, like role models. You
Mm.
doing your job in London and actually missing out the Friday beers and the Monday night clubs, after work club to get smashed and whatever. And you say, no, do you know what? I'm going to the gym and you roll up at work looking really healthy
Mm.
and that, and people look up to you and go, God, do you know what? I think I need to have a look at my drinking because all you got to do is plant that little tiny seed. You haven't got to
Of
ram it
course.
down their neck and go, drinking is the devil and whatever.
Yeah.
You can actually just plant a seed and make people start to explore their own relationship. And I think you're a perfect person to do that, mate.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. really do. I'd love to do that. And I think the engagement and stuff on the podcast is because I just don't want it to feel like a cult. Like you were saying earlier, like some of the stuff you read, and you know what I mean, I'll be honest, it's a bit like we're here and you're there and we're better than you. And like, you know, unless you're climbing mountains and taking ice baths, you're a piece of shit. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, well,
I'm
no.
like, yeah. Oh, and I will say I did climb 2 mountains last year, but that was more for my own. Like I'm 60 this year. I can't believe it, mate. But it was like I need to do these things on a personal level before I hit that age, right? It wasn't, oh, this is what people do. You know, you get a lot of people out there that are doing marathons, 10Ks, and I say, look, it's not about that. It's about you finding a different way to move forward. Some people knit, some people do evening classes. No, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how much you drink. If it makes you feel shit, then think about changing it, you know. And life's for living. You take the blinkers off and you look at life in HD, right? And all of a sudden you see the sky and you see the view and the countryside and that, and you think, do you know what? Even going for a lovely walk on a Sunday afternoon where you'd normally be sitting in the pub getting drunk is a living life, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. Just
And
like, yeah, you just feel stuff. Like even seeing the sun this morning, mate, pink sky. Like it was just like, you just appreciate shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like your senses are on one. And it's just like you said, the blinkers are off and you're seeing everything and you're feeling everything. And I love that feeling, but also it's important, like you do on a day to day, like you remind people that it's difficult. The journey is difficult. Do you know what I mean? And it's not easy, and everything just doesn't all happen at once. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it takes time, and everyone's got their own journey, and they need to stick to your own journey, and you crack on with it. You know, take little bits of here and that, and do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But it's like supermarket sweep. Do you know what I mean? You grab a bit here, grab
that's
a bit
it.
there, but you know you're on your own journey, and I think it's so important for people to remember that and do your own journey, do your own story. Do you know what I mean? But like, maybe, you know, take advice off certain people. It doesn't mean it's always the right advice. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the most important thing about doing podcast, is trying to make it relatable and be honest with people. Do you know what I mean? And I think you do that, and you know, there's a few of them that I do listen to, and it's great. And I think what you do is an amazing thing, mate. And I really do. Like, you help me out. Do you know what I mean? So, you know,
And
hats
do you
off
know
to you.
what? It's hearing that you realise how important it is, right? Because I've only met you today. It feels like I've known you for a long time already, but I just sit here behind my mic, interview people, and you've heard these interviews, which has helped you, and now you're a year sober. And that's the knock-on effect that these interviews have, isn't it? Where you hear little nuggets out of them that you go, oh, yeah, that's how I feel. Or, you know, God, he sounds like me, or she does that like I do. And it's, you know, it's the long content as well. You know, there are people in the future with your podcast and mine in 5 years' time that might listen to an episode from back in the day.
Yeah.
They go, God, I really relate to that, you know. So it's a brilliant thing to do. And I will start listening to it now, mate. So I feel a bit guilty. What's your podcast called? But no,
It's
I will
fine, mate.
do, mate. And I look forward to meeting you tomorrow at the thing.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Thanks so much for joining me on a Saturday morning. You made me laugh in the beginning, and I will say it. You know, it feels like I was going on a date. I've done my hair.
Well, I didn't have to do much of this part, mate. Do you know what I mean? Stuck it out the window.
Oh, it's been a real joy, Matt. Appreciate you coming on, and look after yourself. Best for luck for the future, mate.
I will do, mate. Take care of yourself, and thank you so much. All right.
Pleasure.